I'm Nora, 32, standing in my Seattle apartment, keys jingling in my hand, surrounded by a life I clawed my way to build. If you told me years ago I'd be here, confident and free, I'd have laughed, not because it was impossible, but because I spent so long as the black sheep, chasing a spotlight that never found me. Growing up, I was always the chubby kid, my curves a quiet source of shame in a family that prized perfection. My parents' eyes slid past me, their warmth reserved for my brothers, leaving me to wonder why I was never enough. That sting, those whispers about my weight, made me feel like I was fading into the background. But now, standing in the space I earned, I'm not that invisible girl anymore. I'm proud of my home, my heart, myself. To understand how I got here, you have to go back to the beginning, to a childhood where the scales tipped against me in more ways than one. I grew up in a polished Seattle suburb, a house gleaming with my parents' cardiologist awards and egos to match. But their pride was never for me, it was for my younger twin brothers, Thomas and Mason. From the moment they arrived, I started fading into the wallpaper. At 6, I'd sit at the kitchen table, watching them get the biggest slices of birthday cake, frosting piled high, while I got the crumbly edge. My mom's voice sharp. Girls need to watch their weight. Nora, their lean, active bodies were praised, my chubby frame a quiet disappointment. By 10, they rode shiny new bikes, while I wobbled on a hand me down with a squeaky chain, my dad's eyes lighting up for their speed, barely flickering for me. I didn't understand why I was always less in their gaze. At night, I'd lie awake, the house silent except for my racing thoughts. Why wasn't I enough? Was it because I wasn't a boy? Or because my curves didn't fit their idea of perfect? Their words about my weight, about girls needing to be better, stung like paper cuts. Small but deep. I'd curl up, feeling smaller, wondering what I'd done wrong. Those moments planted a seed of doubt. But they also sparked something else, a hunger to find my own light. That hunger led me to a museum where a single moment would change everything. At 11, I tagged along on a school trip to the Seattle Art Museum, and everything changed. I watched a restorer brush away years of grime from an old painting, revealing colors so vivid my heart skipped a beat. It was like giving forgotten art a second chance. And I was hooked. I dreamed of doing that, fixing broken beauty. I begged my parents for a basic art kit for my 12th birthday. Nothing fancy, just paints and brushes to start. But when I tore open my gift, my heart pounding with hope, I found a math workbook. My mom barely looked up from her charts. Arts for lazy people. Nora, she said, you need to exercise. Slim down like your brothers. Thomas smirked across the table, unwrapping his new gaming console, his lean frame a silent boast. I swallowed the lump in my throat, shoving the workbook under my bed, the sting of their words tying my dreams to my chubby body cut deep. But I hid it behind a tight smile. I wasn't a boy, wasn't perfect, and their dismissal made that clear. Still, that museum moment lingered, a spark I couldn't let go. As I grew into my teens, their favoritism would only sharpen, carving deeper lines between me and the family I longed to belong to. By my teens, the favoritism in our house was impossible to ignore. Family vacations revolved around what Thomas and Mason wanted, kayaking on Puget Sound, if Thomas was in the mood, or hiking up Mount Rainier for Mason's latest whim. My suggestions for an art gallery trip were brushed off like dust. My mom's voice, sharp daughters, should be slim and successful. Nora, not wasting time on hobbies. My chubby frame was a constant target. My brothers snickering about my weight as they flexed their lean, perfect bodies. I'd sit in the back seat, sketching in my notebook, pretending their words didn't sting. But each jab carved a little deeper, making me feel like a shadow in my own family. Their cheers rang loudest at Thomas's soccer games or Mason's debate wins, their eyes glowing with pride I never felt directed at me. You'd get more attention if you lost a few pounds, my dad once said, casual but cutting, as if my worth hinged on a scale. I'd nod, swallowing the hurt, but inside I was shrinking, wondering why I couldn't measure up. My brother's taunts grew bolder, laughing at my pudgy arms during dinner, my parents nodding along like it was fact. I learned to fake a smile, but the ache of being unseen burned hot. The only person who saw me was Grandma Rose. At 14, she handed me a small box in her cozy Olympia cottage, her eyes warm. Inside was an art kit, paints, brushes, a sketch pad. You've got a gift, Nora, she said. Don't let their nonsense dim it. I hugged her tight, her belief a lifeline against the sting of my family's words. That kit became my escape, a way to pour my heart into something they couldn't touch. I clung to it, sketching late into the night, defiance flickering beneath my hurt. High school was a battle. I threw myself into art classes, staying late to perfect my projects. While Thomas and Mason were shipped off to private academies, their tuition paid without a blink, I scraped by in public school with second-hand textbooks, my parents' wallets close to me, their favoritism tied to my body. My gender pushed me to prove I was more than their dismissal. As I started looking at colleges, that spark of defiance grew, whispering that I could carve my own path, no matter how much they tried to weigh me down. When I started applying to colleges, I set my sights on art restoration programs, spending weekends at the museum peppering staff with questions about preserving old canvases. The day I told my parents, my mom laughed a sharp, cutting sound. Nora, that's not a real career, she said. Focus on dieting like real professionals. You'd look the part if you slimmed down. My dad didn't even glance up from his laptop. But Thomas, lounging on the couch, grinned. Yeah, Nora. Why not something real? Like medicine, I saw the pride light up my parents' faces at his words, a glow they'd never given me. Their jabs, tying my dreams to my body, justified their indifference. But it only fueled my fire. I wasn't going to let them snuff it out. My acceptance letter arrived, and I was over the moon. I'd earned a full scholarship to a state university in Washington for art restoration, all on my own merit through essays and portfolio submissions. I rushed into the living room, waving it like a flag. Mom, Dad, I got in. My mom barely looked up from her coffee. That's nice. Honey, did you hear Thomas and Mason ace their AP exams? I stood there, the letter trembling in my hand, feeling punched in the gut. They didn't ask about my program, didn't celebrate my hard-won achievement. That night, I cried into my pillow. But defiance bloomed. I'd prove them wrong, with or without them. The day I left for college, I packed my beat up suitcase with thrift store clothes and my old laptop, ready for the bus to campus. My parents were too busy with hospital shifts to drive me, not that I expected it. I stood at the curb, nerves buzzing. When Grandma Rose's hatchback pulled up, she stepped out, silver hair catching the light, and hugged me tight. Nora, my girl, she whispered, slipping an envelope into my hand. You're going to shine. Inside was a check, not huge, but enough for my first semester's books. Her faith felt like armor, shielding me from the world's barbs, especially my family's. College was a mix of freedom and grind. For the first time, I escaped Thomas and Mason's shadow, diving into art restoration classes, learning to clean centuries old paintings, repair cracked frames without anyone calling it a waste. But money was tight. My scholarship covered tuition, yet rent, food, and supplies came from late night coffee shop shifts, wiping counters until my hands ached. I'd hear about my brother's Ivy League luxuries through sparse family calls dorms, Hawaii trips, top internships, all funded by mom and dad. Meanwhile, I rationed noodles, praying my laptop held out. Their favoritism, rooted in my imperfect body, left me scraping by. But it built my grit. Art restoration became my sanctuary, magical in its quiet way, peeling back grime to reveal hidden colors. Like granting a painting new life, I'd lose hours in the studio, forgetting the sting of my parents' words. In my junior year, I snagged an internship at a small Seattle museum cataloging artifacts. Sweeping floors, but it was a door cracking open. I called home, voice bubbling. Mom, I got an internship. Her reply was flat. That's nice. Nora, did you know Mason's presenting at a medical conference? I gripped the phone, swallowing a scream, muttering great before hanging. Their comparisons, always laced with body shaming undertones, whispered I'd never measure up. But that defiance, it was roaring now, pushing me toward graduation with unshakable resolve. In my final college year, I poured my heart into restoring a faded 1800s landscape painting, coaxing its colors back to life with every careful brushstroke. It felt like uncovering a piece of myself. I told my parents, hoping for a spark of interest. But my dad just shrugged. Sounds like a lot of work for little pay. Nora, hard to afford Seattle if you don't watch your figure. Their words, laced with that familiar body shaming sting, dismissed my passion as a flaw tied to my chubby frame. Graduation was bittersweet. I clutched my diploma, scanning the crowd for my family. They were there, but their distracted glances screamed they'd rather be elsewhere. After, at a chain restaurant, I shared my job offer from a Seattle museum entry level, but a start. My dad frowned. How much does it pay? I mumbled the modest salary, their faces radiating disappointment, as if my body and choices failed their test. Grandma Rose caught me outside, pressing an envelope into my hand, a deposit for a tiny apartment. Don't let them dull your spark, she said, her hug anchoring me. Seattle was a fresh start. My museum job meant cleaning frames and logging inventory grunt work, but I was surrounded by art, and that fed my soul. Then I met Lucas, a web designer hustling to build his own business, his warm smile lighting up a coffee shop break. We bonded over creating something from nothing, him with code, me with paint. Raised in Tacoma by parents who worked long shipyard hours. He knew the underdog grind and loved me as I was, curves and all. Unlike my family's constant critiques, his belief in me started healing the wounds their words left behind. After a year of dating, I brought Lucas to meet my family. Big mistake. In their pristine dining room. Tension crackled. My dad leaned in, fake casual. So, Lucas, what's your 5 year plan? Lucas, hand finding mine under the table, said, building my client list, slow but steady. My mom's voice cut in. And your income? Nora's career is tough. She needs stability, not dreams. The jab, implying my tough path stemmed from my body and choices, burnt my face. Lucas squeezed my hand, his steady gaze saying he saw me, really saw me, that night. I knew we were a team, ready to face whatever came next, including our engagement. When Lucas and I got engaged, we knew our wedding would be simple, our savings stretched just enough for a community center ceremony with wildflowers and a homemade cake. I swallowed my pride and called my parents, hoping for a sliver of involvement. Mom, Dad, we've set a date. It's modest. But maybe you could help with something small. Silence hung heavy before my mom spoke. Nora, you're an adult. If you chose this path, handle it. Then, as if an afterthought, they sent $100 tucked in a card with her scrawl, might look better in your dress if you were slimmer. The body shaming jab, masking their refusal as advice, twisted the knife, not surprised. But it hurt. Grandma Rose, ever my rock, called, I can't give a fairy tale, but let's make it special. Her check arrived small, but enough for fairy lights and a second-hand dress that made me feel beautiful. Curves and all. The wedding was perfect in its humble way. Friends pitched in, stringing lights and baking cupcakes, turning the space into a glowing haven. As I walked down the petal-strewn aisle, Lucas's smile lit everything up, his eyes seeing me fully, without judgment, unlike my family. We exchanged vows, laughter mingling with tears, surrounded by people who celebrated us. My parents showed, but their stiff postures and bored looks screamed disapproval. I overheard Mom muttering about the cheap setup. Thomas and Mason lurked in a corner, snickering at their phones. I focused on the magic Lucas's hand in mine. Friends, cheers letting it drown out the rest. But the next morning, my phone exploded with notifications. Thomas and Mason had posted wedding photos on social media, captions slicing like blades. Congrats to Big Sis on her budget bash beside a blurry cake shot. And dollar store vibes for Nora's big day next to our fairy lights. The worst a side by side of our buffet and a fancy restaurant meal. Caption Nora's wedding versus our usual lunch guess, which is which. They amped the cruelty with body shaming digs. Like budget body vibes at S's special day. Zooming on my figure in the dress. Comments poured in brutal laughs from some relatives, others like Aunt Betty calling it mean. My parents, a breezy boys will be boys. The mix of mockery and body jabs felt like a gut punch, exposing their true colors. I didn't call or yell, I blocked them all. The click of final severance. The hurt lingered, but so did the warmth of our real supporters. 5 months later, the annual Taurus family reunion loomed, and Lucas suggested we go, hoping for some bridge. I wasn't sure, but maybe, just maybe, things could shift. 5 months later, the annual Taurus family reunion rolled around at a Seattle hotel ballroom. Buzzing with cousins and aunts I barely knew, Lucas convinced me to go, hoping it might mean something. But tension coiled in my gut as I made small talk, steering clear of my parents and brothers. Then I overheard Thomas bragging about his latest ski trip to Whistler, all paid for by mom and dad. Something snapped. I stepped forward, voice steady but loud. Must be nice, Thomas. Having them bankroll your life. The room hushed. He blinked, off guard. What's that supposed to mean? Years of hurt spilled out. You and Mason get everything: private schools, new cars, even $700,000 for your wedding. Thomas. Me. A math workbook for my birthday and $100 for mine. Gasps echoed. My mom's face flushed. Nora, you're dramatic. We've treated you equally. I laughed. Bitter. Equal public school for me, tutors for them. Scholarships I earned alone while you funded their Ivy League worlds. Don't lie. My dad hissed. You're embarrassing us. But Grandma Rose's voice sliced through. Enough. I've watched you tear Nora down for years, favoring the boys, shaming her body. I'm ashamed. The room nodded with her, Aunt Betty's eyes sympathetic. Thomas and Mason smirked like it was a game. I grabbed Lucas's hand and walked out, heart pounding, but a weight lifting off my chest. Months passed. And Lucas's hustle paid off. His design firm snagged a big tech contract. Suddenly, we weren't scraping by. We bought a cozy Capitol Hill apartment with big windows and room for my art supplies. I was thrilled, posting a subtle shot online with Grandma Rose visiting, captioning it gratefully. But the past wasn't finished. One evening, as I prepped dinner for her, a pounding knock shook the door. I opened it to Thomas and Mason, faces twisted, shoving past with accusations flying. You manipulative little Thomas jabbed a finger. Saw your post flaunting this place with Grandma. Think we don't know you're sucking up for her money? Stunned, I shot back. We earned this Lucas's contract. My job? Grandma's just visiting. Mason sneered. Cruel. Sure. Fat and manipulative as always. Where's the old lady? Can't wait for her to croak so we can sell her house and cut you out. Their words body shaming me, mid-rant hung ugly in the air. A soft gasp froze us. Grandma Rose stood in the guest room doorway, pale but steady. So that's how you feel, she said, voice laced with pain. I'm just a paycheck. Thomas stammered excuses, but she raised a hand. I've heard enough. I know who values me. Anger surged through me. Get out now. They slunk away, muttering. The door clicking shut like a seal on the damage. Grandma hugged me, her hands trembling, and we both knew bridges had burned. The whirlwind hit next, my phone buzzing with parents' calls and texts. Desperate to fix it, I answered once, against better judgment. Nora. Talk to Grandma. Mom snapped. The boys didn't mean it. They're upset. I laughed. Cold. Upset we succeeded without you. That she loves me. They barged in, shamed my body, wished her dead. No fixing that. Dad's tone softened. Manipulative. Think of the family. Your brothers deserve her support. They're the future. That word deserve snapped me after years ignoring me, belittling Lucas, excusing their cruelty and body jabs. I'm done with your guilt. I hung up, blocked them. A final weight dissolving. It hurt, like excising poison, but necessary. Lucas held me through the tears. Our home, a fortress. With Grandma closer now, the fog lifted, revealing a path forward. Lucas became my anchor, steady through every storm, holding me when I cried and cheering our wins without a hint of blame. Grandma Rose moved closer to Seattle, her laughter filling our apartment with warmth I'd craved my whole life. Aunt Betty, stirred by the wedding post's cruelty, became a regular visitor, bringing books and stories from her Portland shop. Other relatives, cousins, uncles reached out, some apologizing for not seeing the favoritism and body shaming I'd endured. Their support like sunlight through a fog. Our Capitol Hill apartment, with its thrift store chairs and my paintings on the walls, became our sanctuary, a testament to the life we'd built despite every jab about my body or dreams. I stood taller, no longer needing to prove my worth or change my curves to fit their mold. One evening, chopping vegetables for a big dinner with Grandma and Aunt Betty, Lucas snapped a photo of us laughing, joy spilling over. I posted it online beside a shot of our new keys, captioned, "New home, true family, grateful for those who've been there." As I hit post, I felt free not just from my family's toxicity, but from the weight of their body shaming expectations. That night, around a table piled with pasta and stories, I looked at Lucas, Grandma, and Betty, my heart full. The soft Seattle rain tapped the windows, but inside was warm, bright, ours. Thank you to everyone who's followed this journey through rejection, rage, and redemption. You've walked with me as I found my strength, my love, my home curves and all. If my story hit you, hit that subscribe button and join us, where every brushstroke tells a tale of grit, love, and starting over. Keep painting your own path, and I'll see you at the canvas.